So we are here at NRF 2003 at the big show in New York at the Javits Center. And I'm here with Ryan from Nautical Commerce. He's their CEO and founder. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about Nautical.
You know, Nautical, we built Nautical because, I had the fortunate situation to be able to talk to 35 of the Fortune 500. And at the time, and this shouldn't be a surprise to you, all of them wanted to build a marketplace, and I'm kind of tech curious, so, sitting in front of the CEOs and the CFOs and usually the CTOs, I got the opportunity to ask them, I'm like, well, what platform are you using? And I got a very surprising answer. A lot of them thought it would be a good idea to try to build it themselves. And, so I would say, out of the 30 that weren't already marketplaces, I would say probably 5 to 6 were actually looking at using a provider like you and something off the shelf. The rest, we're going to try to do an internal build from the ground up. And building 40 private marketplaces over the last decade, I realized that was probably not a good use of capital funds. And every one of them had more or less the same budget, double-digit millions of dollars, and at about a 2 to 3 year time frame to deliver value. And so I said, hey, there needs to be a better solution, something that is more readily available, maybe not exactly turnkey, but something that an organization can get to the 80-90% mark before they actually start writing a line of code.
Right.
And that was the goal with Nautical.
That's great. And the build versus buy conversation is something we run into a lot. And where do you think what's the inflection point when you're talking to these leaders when it comes to the decision to go with something, with a solution like Nautical instead of buy? What's the value prop there that usually convinces them?
For me, I think it's an education lesson around what real IP is. There's this misnomer about what is intellectual property. In my mind, I don't think anything is intellectual property that you don't directly sell to a customer. And so, I'll take kind of like the Sears versus Amazon type situation, right? Amazon built an amazing marketplace, but really, I would argue their revenue growth really occurred when they decided to productize and offer AWS, their infrastructure, out to customers. That was the game-changing moment for them, right? You're probably talking 70 to 80% margins on that kind of business line. Building infrastructure and keeping that in-house is not IP, it's tech debt. Yeah. And if you're a retailer,
a depreciating asset, if you will.
Exactly. And if you're a retailer and you're sitting on a 10% margin or even a 15 or 20% margin, and you have these two, your customer-facing goods taking up capital, and then also this tech platform that ages and decays over time. You have to maintain it, keep it security patched, put in the emergency updates, et cetera, et cetera. That's expensive.
All the care and feeding.
Exactly, and I would argue that's kind of what happened to the Toys R Us's of the world and Sears, is they were both marketplaces, Amazon and Sears. One decided to build their own platform and never embrace, what I call, things that were more modern and less maintenance and less of a drag on their tech team.
And that became like having too much inventory, right? It's a drag on your bottom line. It's a drag on your innovation capabilities. So where are you seeing success in the market right now?
We are a platform that's really built for B2B commerce, multi-vendor, and marketplace, right? And so, really B2B is an area where we're getting a lot of traction. We see still a lot of B2C interest, but I really think the undigitized B2B world is where we're going to see the biggest growth for us.
And there's a lot, and we're seeing the same thing, right? There's a lot of opportunity in manufacturing, distribution, wholesale, even getting into the CPG end of things, where 100%. They're trying to do the house of brands type of thing, and then maybe even push that out to other marketplaces. So why don't you tell us, you had a recent a fundraising event that went very well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we were fortunate because we didn't raise in 21, which I kind of call froth. It was the hype cycle, if you will. We waited until we had results before we raised, and our results were at least impressive enough to get several VCs interested in our cycle. And so we went to market, I think, in April, and within a very short period of time we had a term sheet, and we were able to raise $30 million as a Series A.
That's
in a
amazing.
market that, maybe is 5 to 10 million would have been a normal Series A. And part of that was, a real proof point on the demand of a system like Nautical, something that's composable, headless, and ready for your tech team to just take and customize for your use case.
Very nice. What would you say are, in interacting with these customers and B2B brands and retailers in some cases, what would you say are like the top 3 value realization plays or the motivations for building a marketplace?
I think it's really the data. I think Digital Commerce 360 had a study that said during the pandemic, if you had a marketplace, you grew at 80% year over year. This great, what I call a quickening the quickening of e-commerce adoption. So people that were normally offline prior to the pandemic had to go online. There was kind of like this forced to card not present transactions, right? And marketplaces grew at 80%, whereas normal commerce grew only at 40%. So there was this double effect if you had a marketplace. I'm sure you and your customers saw that, right?
We do, and we've seen that's been a kind of a retained behavior, if you will, from pre-pandemic. A lot of folks wouldn't go online to order groceries. They wouldn't even think to order foodstuffs from an Amazon or even from a more local provider. And now that's become the default because that was, grocery. There was a survey that grocery had been looked at as something for the wealthy and the affluent.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden everyone discovered that Instacart is actually a very, very convenient service, right? All of those kinds of Target bought shipped, right?
Yep.
So we've seen this retained behavior. And marketplaces, especially among the younger generations, millennials and whatnot, that is their preferred. Like millennials and Gen Z prefer a marketplace 99% of the time or something like that, and that's why solutions like Nautical are definitely valuable in the market. So what's new for 2023? You guys got the raise. You've had some great customer wins. What's new for the new year?
For us, it's partnering with organizations like yourself. Thought leaders that people go to and look at to inform what path they should take with the marketplace, right? So that's number one. Number 2 is really kind of leaning into this B2B for us. A lot of customers are looking to digitize their undigitized marketplace. Distributors and wholesalers, they are marketplaces, and a lot of them are realizing that they're marketplaces, in disguise. They didn't know that. And I like to say that they were marketplaces before Silicon Valley thought marketplaces were cool.
This is true, and that's what we've been. The first marketplace we developed was not by accident, but it was just the business model that made sense, and that was Teleflora. Yep. 15 years ago, on top of the old ATG platform, and had to do all custom build. To the tune of multiple millions of dollars. And that project took, I think, 18 months, something like that. Absolutely. So that's one of your advantages is time to market. What is so say a customer signs up with you guys, they have a commerce platform you're going to integrate with already. What's the general time to market that you're finding for Nautical? So
what we like to do is, and I like to call this a holistic 360-degree stakeholder perspective, is we go in and tell the champion of the project that they really ought to chunk the project up into 3 phases. Whether it's a crawl, walk, run, whether that's concept, pilot, production, whatever. But the reason is we like to deliver time to value within the first 90 to 180 days. And the reason is generally your financial sponsor is going to come and say, wait, where's all this money going?
Where's the ROI?
Especially in this environment, right? There's not an appetite for an 18-month project before you deliver the first transaction, right? And so for us, we strongly encourage folks to go down that path so that we can say, hey, even if it's an MVP, here is the platform. And part of that's even getting the internal operations team acclimated to the new operating paradigm, right? Yeah. Getting used to a new system, getting used to orders, even if that's internal orders only, right? And then the second phase is usually customer facing, or it's leaning into that pilot and getting a bunch of customers on. Yeah. Third phase in our mind is production, that isn't where it stops, right? You know, thought leaders like yourselves provide the strategic consulting to help them grow that beyond just what we call the general, the Gold Master GA launch, right? And so, you know, that's when you start kind of planning out the next 3 phases. And our goal is always deliver as fast as possible. We actually had one, it's absolutely crazy. It was a B2B marketplace. He actually dictated the timelines. He said, okay, you said you're fast. He said, I want 15, 45, 60 days. And we did it.
Wow, that's aggressive. Yeah. That's aggressive.
Now his next 3 phases were a lot more elongated, right? The next one was like 90 days, and there was 180 days, and now he has more of a year timeline because we're on his 6th phase now. But he was able to prove out that he could get transactions in a relatively short order, 60 days, launching a marketplace.
So instead of failing fast, he was succeeding fast.
100%.
But iterative steps.
Yeah,
that's smart.
But to that point, Tom, he also got to see what didn't resonate. You know, and I think these boil the ocean initiatives where everybody thinks, oh, I need this AI and I need this magical this and automation. To me, it's premature optimization. You're paying for something you don't need
Prove
because
the core
data
concept first.
Yeah, data isn't proving it. Yeah. So, and behavior, customer behavior.
Well, and that's a great approach, though. I mean, we also recommend similar of not even just MVP, but make sure that there's your bite-sized chunks can actually prove that value realization, and can lead to that next step. So I'll close with this final question. What would you say the primary differences with companies that are traditional e-commerce players that are just doing first party?
Yep.
What in your experience is the kind of like aha moment of like the difference in their operations that they have to change to be successful with the marketplace from traditional first?
Now, I think that's a fantastic question to close with, because traditional commerce really focuses on removing the friction to buy and the buyer's experience. So what they're doing, Tom, is they're optimizing literally for order management. What we found in building 40 plus marketplaces is, really marketplaces sit at this intersection of commerce, fintech, and logistics. And so it's more of an orchestration across all 3 dimensions. And the shift in paradigm is not just taking a commerce system and modifying it and making it a marketplace, really. You need a platform that was built to orchestrate the fintech, to make it easier to handle RMAs, return merchandise authorization, right? That is an afterthought in most first-party commerce systems. And so, while Nautical can be a first-party commerce system, we really lean into that, what we call collaborative or connected commerce, right? Because, we believe the future of commerce is going to be, a bunch of different brands, retailers, and or even distributors and suppliers participating in a variety of marketplaces, because those are just channels.
Yeah. And marketplace aggregation and marketplaces of marketplaces, that's definitely
100%.
That's where it's headed.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you, Tom.
Really appreciate it. And please stay tuned for other marketplace chats. Be sure to check out Nautical, and thank you so much, Ryan.
Absolutely, thank you.